In the ancient city of Alexandria, once the greatest center of learning in the world, there lived a woman unlike any other of her time. She was a mathematician, an astronomer, and a philosopher, revered as the wisest teacher of her age. Students traveled from across the Mediterranean to hear her speak, and powerful men sought her counsel. In a world that gave women almost no place in public life, she stood at the very summit of human knowledge. And yet, her brilliance would make her a target, and her death would become one of the most infamous crimes in history, a symbol of reason destroyed by fanaticism. Her name was Hypatia, the last. Hypatia was born in Alexandria around the middle of the 4th century, the daughter of Theon, a renowned mathematician and astronomer, and one of the last scholars associated with the city's famous institutions of learning. Theon raised his daughter as few fathers of the age would dare, giving her a complete education in mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy. He is said to have wanted her to become a perfect human being, in mind and body alike. Under his guidance, Hypatia's genius blossomed. In time, she would surpass even her father, becoming a greater mathematician and thinker than he had ever been. She grew into a woman of formidable intellect, devoted entirely.
To understand Hypatia, you must understand her city. For centuries, Alexandria had been the intellectual capital of the ancient world, home to its legendary library and its great museum of learning. Here, the finest minds had studied mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy, and preserved the wisdom of the Greeks. But by Hypatia's time, that golden age was fading. The Roman Empire was in decline, and Alexandria had become a place of rising tension, where old traditions clashed with a powerful new force, the growing Christian faith. Amid this fragile, changing world, Hypatia rose to become the leading teacher and thinker of her city, a brilliant flame of reason burning in an age that was slowly turning dark. Hypatia became the head of a school of philosophy in Alexandria, where she taught the ideas of Plato and other great thinkers. Her lectures were famous, drawing students from far and wide, both pagan and Christian alike. She was admired not only for her brilliance, but for her wisdom and strength of character. Contemporaries described her as eloquent, dignified, and fair. Remarkably, she also lectured in public, appearing openly in the city to speak on philosophy, something almost unheard of for a woman of her time. Officials and leading citizens sought her advice, and her influence reached into the very heart of the city's affairs. Hypatia had become the most respected intellectual figure in all of Alexandria. Hypatia was a gifted mathematician and astronomer in her own right. She wrote learned commentaries on the great mathematical works of her age, helping to explain and preserve the complex ideas of earlier geometers. Working alongside her father, she helped pass on the mathematical knowledge of the ancient world. She was also skilled in the building of instruments. Ancient sources credit her with knowledge of devices for studying the heavens and measuring the stars, including the astrolabe, used by astronomers for centuries. In an age before telescopes, thinkers like Hypatia mapped the movements of the sun, the moon, and the planets using reason and careful observation alone. She stood among the last great scientific minds of antiquity. At the heart of Hypatia's life was philosophy. She followed a tradition of thought known as Neoplatonism, which taught that the soul could rise toward a higher divine truth through reason, virtue, and contemplation. For Hypatia, the pursuit of knowledge was not just an intellectual exercise, but a way of life, a path toward wisdom and inner nobility. By all accounts, she lived simply and virtuously, devoting herself to her students and to the search for truth rather than to wealth or comfort. She is said to have remained unmarried,
choosing to give her whole life to philosophy. In her, learning and character were one. Hypatia embodied an ancient ideal that the highest goal of a human life is the pursuit of wisdom. But the world around Hypatia was growing dangerous. Alexandria had become a city torn by bitter conflict between different religious and political factions as the new Christian order rose to power over the old pagan traditions. Riots and violence flared in the streets. At the center of the storm stood two powerful men. One was Orestes, the Roman governor of the city, and a friend and admirer of Hypatia. The other was Cyril, the ambitious and forceful bishop of Alexandria. The two became locked in a fierce struggle for control of the city, each unwilling to yield. And Hypatia, the most respected voice in Alexandria, found herself caught in the middle of their deadly feud, her friendship with the governor making her a marked woman. As the struggle between the governor and the bishop grew more violent, Hypatia became a target. Because she advised Orestes and was seen as an obstacle to reconciliation, rumors began to spread against her. Her enemies whispered that this famous pagan philosopher was using her influence and even accused her of dark arts to keep the governor from making peace with the bishop. In truth, Hypatia was guilty of nothing but her wisdom, her independence, and her loyalty to reason. But in a city gripped by fear and hatred, the truth no longer mattered. A brilliant woman who had spent her life teaching philosophy and mathematics had become a symbol of everything the mob had come to fear, and that fear was about to explode into horror. In the year 415, the violence finally reached Hypatia. One day, as she traveled through the city, she was set upon by a mob of fanatics stirred up against her. They dragged her from her carriage and into a building, where they killed her in a brutal and savage manner, and then destroyed her body. It was an act of shocking cruelty against a woman whose only weapons had ever been ideas. The murder of Hypatia sent a wave of horror through the ancient world. Even in a violent age, the killing of so revered a scholar, a woman of learning and virtue, was seen as a monstrous crime. With her death, something precious was extinguished, and the light of old Alexandria grew dimmer than ever before. Hypatia's death came to be seen as a turning point, a moment when the ancient world of open inquiry gave way to a darker, more intolerant age. In the centuries that followed, she became a powerful symbol of the pursuit of knowledge, of reason standing against fanaticism, and of the tragic cost when hatred triumphs over wisdom. She is remembered as one of the first women celebrated as a mathematician and philosopher, an inspiration to all who value learning and free thought. Much of her own writing was lost, but her memory endures. Hypatia of Alexandria remains a shining reminder of the power of the human mind and of how fragile the light of reason can be. Hypatia of Alexandria, the brilliant philosopher whose life honored reason and whose death warned the world of what fanaticism destroys.